Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As always, 11 sharp, we are, almost as always, we are starting our Digital Literacy Bootcamp webinar. Let me say that this is actually our last webinar within 2020 edition, so we are closing the English edition of the bootcamp for this year, but it has been quite some time, more than 30 webinars, many speakers, many questions, many participants. Let me just say that we are already preparing for 2021 edition, so stay tuned, stay with us. But nevertheless, that's really the last one webinar within this series this autumn. So today we are reviewing applications that are available in the market, which can be used by MFIs to improve work efficiency. Some of the names, some of the brands you will know for sure, or you've heard about them, but some of them I'm sure will be surprise for you. So stay tuned, stay with us, because this will be really interesting practical webinar. We will review quite some applications for various users. So I hope you will find at least one or two new information interesting for you. Today we are hosting Etienne with us. Etienne has great experience of working in microfinance in the markets of Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Etienne, I am sure you will say a few more words about yourself. He's working now as independent consultant. So welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hello, nice to be with you.
Let me just, as always, just mention that these webinars this series are possible thanks to support of EIB Institute and EFSA Development Facility, as well as European Commission. So all those three donors contributed greatly to make this series possible, to make them free of charge, and for MFC members and beyond. As I said, that's the last webinar within the series of English edition, but let me just say that in November we will host 3 selected webinars in Russian language. So if you have any colleagues or friends that prefer to speak and discuss in Russian, invite them to those series. They are already on our website. So Etienne, let me invite you to share your slides, and meantime, as usually, let me ask you a question about your experience, or how familiar you feel with the applications that improve work efficiency. Like how well do you know, how many of them do you know? Like, how do you rate your own experience and knowledge about those tools? So I've launched the poll. Please take a second to point out the answer. And we are starting shortly. So let me just take a few more seconds to collect the votes. More than 60% of us participating has voted. So I will simply stop here. I will share results of the poll. So okay, we have some people who feel familiar. So please share your experience by sharing this in the chat box or unmuting yourself. And for the rest, I hope that this webinar will be really beneficial. So Etienne, now back to the floor, or our virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eva. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I will get started. Thank you very much for the introduction. So yes, I hope this call today will be useful. It will be a mix of presentation and practical demo of solutions. So I will try to make it as practical as possible. Feel free anytime to share questions in the chat. Even if the question is too pressing, don't feel shy to unmute your mic and ask it right away. So let's get started. First, about the plan of the presentation. So I would like to share it with you in a way a bit original. I would like to start from a schema, trying to represent how MFIs are organized and how communication and information is exchanged inside an MFI. So concretely, what do we have inside an MFI? We have usually a front office engaging with clients, supported by a back office, then a management supervising the activity, and within this structure, different type of groups, credit committees, for example, deciding on loans application, different continuous improvement projects, and usually we have as well some kind of auditing function controlling the way things happen in the structure. So this is a very schematic view, and I wanted to look at how information are being exchanged inside this structure. So we have first a lot of information exchanged naturally between front office and clients through marketing, promotion, the whole sales process. Then we have a flow of information getting from the clients through the structure when the loan is being processed, meaning documentation, application data, any type of scoring. This is information coming from clients and being processed through the organization. Then we have as well a role of supervision going from the management to the front office to make sure that the way we are engaging with the clients is efficient and that the front office is performing their work properly. Then within each of these boxes, we can have as well some internal discussion, some kind of more sophisticated discussion aiming at either taking decision on loans for credit committee or managing some process of continuous improvements for project, or just getting more strategic or managerial exchanges at management level. Then we have some project-oriented exchanges. So when we are leading internal projects, there has to be some exchanges with other departments, with management for the projects to move forward properly. And we have the audit performing some conformity checks on the structure. So what we'll try to do in this presentation is to look at what tools can assist on different type of information exchanges existing inside the organization. So in terms of plan, we'll start by a few introductory remarks. Then we will quickly talk about messaging applications. I think pretty much everybody is familiar with them, but we'll just look a little bit at them to make sure we make the most out of them. Then we'll speak about collaboration platforms, which aims at assisting internal discussions, maybe a bit more technical and sophisticated, which we are having internally. Then we will look at self-built mini CRM. So behind this term, we look at a solution called Airtable, which I hope will be something new and interesting for most of you, to show how further than being a user of a system, you and your team can start being a builder of the system, which can be put in place fast and bring value fast to your organization. Then we will look at project management with a system called Trello, and we'll look at how this system can integrate with other solutions. And then we will look at a few other systems. We'll quickly screen through other solutions to help you schedule and conduct calls in an efficient way, store and find documents, and overall stay efficient when working remotely. And we will finish with a few conclusion remarks. So before we get started, I think something really important, and you can think about it as we go through the presentation, is the pain points. Think about which pain points you would like to address through applications. And feel free to share your thoughts through the chat or through the questions anytime in the presentation or at the end. In terms of introductory remarks, so these are a few, let's say, remarks helping you maybe get the most out of the presentation and get what's the most relevant for you. First, in any situation, may it be simple apps or sophisticated system, it's important to always start from the pain points you're having in your organization. Don't move forward with a solution if you're not sure it's really addressing some issues faced by your organization. Fall in love is with the problem, not with the solution. It's kind of the usual saying. Try first to optimize your current systems. Before implementing something new, make sure that it's something your current system cannot address. Then ensure your system talk to each other. I think that's something really clear, and this is linked with the next point, avoid duplication of information, that if you had to define a modern system is a system which is able to talk with other systems around. That's really a key. And when you are moving forward with digital projects, it's really important to make sure systems talk to each other. In this process of applications implementation, always avoid forbidding means of communication. So it's sometimes tempting where you see, let's say that a part of your team is using a system, part of your team is using another one. It's sometimes tempting to just forbid one of the solutions, but sometimes it can be counterproductive because it's better to have unstructured communication than no communication at all. So always try to do the transition in a smooth way and give the good reasons for your users to migrate to a specific solution. And the last comment before we start is keep in mind that there are some functional overlaps between systems. In this presentation, I categorize the solutions according to a few categories, but you should understand that some solutions cover more things. So it means that you can totally start implementing one solution, which is doing some things very well and some things in a more basic way. And when you see that your needs are not fully addressed by the function of the solution, you can implement another more specialized solutions to replace one or some of the functions you were using in another solution. So understand that there is no very clear partition line between different categories. You can have systems doing more than one thing, but just they have their core function and some others which are more extra functions. So always keep this in mind when you are moving forward with solutions.
So as always, start from, the most important thing really to start with understanding what's really troubling the organization, what are the pain points. Like in case of MFC, this would be really too many of internal emails, and then make actually surprisingly the solutions available or the solutions we are already using have so many additional options that it's enough to take time to explore, like Skype or other basic apps that we are used to, but we don't really expect them having so many functionalities. So looking forward to see the details.
Thank you, Eva. So let's get started. First, we'll talk shortly about messaging application. I think pretty much everybody's familiar with what are messaging application and what are the main opportunities and risks. So naturally, it's the fastest way to reach the clients. Pretty much everybody is now using messaging applications. It's a way to reach clients fast, efficiently. It's a way as well to deliver marketing messages to the clients very fast. But on the risk side, there is the issue of risk, security, and data privacy, especially when the legislation is becoming more strict on these topics. The fact loan officers communicate actively all the time with customers through these apps, which are sometimes unsecured, can be an issue. In terms of solutions, so I think the most famous solutions are well known for everybody. So you have WhatsApp, Facebook, which are really very well known. Telegram and Viber, which are two solutions really, I would say, popular in Eastern Europe region and CIS countries. So maybe you know some of them. Telegram has more a pro, let's say, an image of professional solution, while Viber may be a bit more the fun option. And here I put two extra options. So Signal, that's an interesting option because it was not created by a private company. Actually, it's a system which was created by a non-for-profit. and which basically respects all the best possible criteria in terms of data privacy, in terms of security. So with Signal, you are 100% sure your data will not be used for commercial purpose, basically. That's why I put here as an introduction. And then something to keep in mind is that SMS are still, even if old-fashioned, quite relevant way of communicating with clients in many contexts. What to do with a messaging application? So just a few quick recommendations. The main one being that just check what your customers and staff are using. Make a small poll, check where are your customers now, and start from there. If you see that all your customers are using, for example, Telegram, look first at Telegram. Look at the functional scope. Look if it addresses the needs of your organization. And if it does, there is no reason to go for something else. Same if all the clients are on Viber or more on Facebook Messenger. Start from where the clients are. Then choose this application and make it the official company messaging application. It means that this would be the only messaging app that your staff are allowed to use on professional purpose. What is outside of this app would be considered personal. So for security purpose, it's key. And yeah, and
from what we are hearing here from participants, Viber sounds most popular, but important question, what to do if clients actually use two types of application, like we have a example here, or WhatsApp and Viber.
At this point, it may depend of, you will need to dig a bit in the functionality of the solutions. For example, what both Viber and WhatsApp propose in terms of channels, basically. I know that Viber has some popular channels where you can share some marketing material. WhatsApp maybe has less of such options. So you will need to understand what is important for you to do with these applications. And do you put a priority on doing marketing through some channels, or do you just want to do the chat? Do you want it to be a more formal way of communicating? Do you plan having some bots configured inside the messaging applications? These are some of the questions you need to ask yourself to choose. If really there is a dilemma because your customers are more or less the same on one application or the other. Something which may be quite important as well is the desktop mobile compatibility. Some solutions are better to be used both on mobile and on desktop, while some are a bit less done for that. I know that WhatsApp, it has been mobile first for a long time, and the desktop applications may be a bit less advanced and stable than it could be for Telegram or Viber, for example. So you would need to dig a little bit. After, there are as well some options allowing you to post messages on several platforms. So this can be done as well. But the most you are able to get one main application for your organization, the better. So that's for messaging application. So very quickly, just as some kind of reminder, I would like to give a quick overview of some function of Telegram, just if for some of you in the call, we're not fully familiar with the chat application. So in Telegram, you have
I think also the purpose here is to give it as an example for other apps also to look for the functionalities of other communication apps similar to these ones, right?
Exactly. What I'm showing here in Telegram, most of the messaging applications have similar functions, like organized maybe in a different way, but the idea is to understand what type of things can be done through a messaging app. So you have the classic chat option. So like you can see here, where you just chat, you exchange messages, you can have a single communication or groups with several people. That's something very classic. Then what you can do inside messaging is creating some channels to do some marketing. So here, for example, in Telegram, it's highlighted by this small speaker. You create a channel, and this can be a place where you are going to post announcements to be shared with your clients, or it can be with your team members as well. So in this case, it's a microfinance in Cambodia. When they have a vacancy, they are going to post it on this channel. When they have a new product, they are going to post here as well. There are some other examples I can show, like for example, private bank in Ukraine. They have this specific channel with a lot of subscribers where they are not only sharing marketing information, they are as well running some kind of polls. So they are sharing and they are asking the people their opinion about some specific topic. So that be an interesting way to kind of test some ideas you have with your audience of customers. So several things can be done like with this type of channel. What's interesting, for example, here in private bank, they have as well some sub-topics. So they have a specific channel for innovation where they are going to post all the new innovations they have in their bank. In some cases, you even find some regional groups. So you have the branch in one specific city who created a channel for their local community. So everything can be done in this aspect. So that's the first thing, channels. The second things are bots. So when you are creating bots, it's basically you create a logic to exchange with your customers. So I'll try to show a few examples of here. So here are some bots, for example, providing exchange rate. So you just ask for a specific exchange rate and it will give you the current exchange rate after today. Some banks develop their own chatbot. So concretely, you arrive on a box and you start, the bot propose some functions and you start interacting with the bot. In some cases, it's all automated. In some cases, you can start with something automated. And if the questions become more specific, you're getting directed to a sales operator. So here it's for Monobank in Ukraine. When I said I wanted to speak English, they directed me to a specific salesperson. So you can have some kind of mix of things like this, where you have some logic and then as well some humans supporting the process. So some of the very well-known bots are, for example, when you want to book a travel, these bots work really well. You just ask where do you want to go, from where you want to leave, and it will find you the best options. And for finance, you have the same type of things. So
technical question. Actually, those bots for, I guess that's for Telegram, Viber, or other apps. Can you, is it like a functionality that you just kind of adapt to your needs, or you need a separate developer who will develop a bot for you and somehow integrate it with the communication app? So how does it work from technical perspective?
From a technical perspective, usually you have some builders which allow you to build bots without advanced technical knowledge. You don't need necessarily to have a pure bot developer to do it. You have some builders allowing to build the logic of the bot in the way you need it. If you have your list of products, you can you have some applications to build the logic of your bot. I know some for Facebook Messenger, which has this. I suppose for Telegram you have the same thing. You would not need to have bot experts to build a simple bot to access, for example, your product parameters.
Okay, so the simple version of the bot I can do myself from my desk in a way.
Yeah, it's I cannot tell you right now which builder there is for Telegram, but I suppose there are some builders to build your own logic. So this type of if you want things more sophisticated, if you start having maybe important background database which needs to interact with the bot, maybe you'll need to get some support from people who know how to do it. For simple things, I think you can start doing things yourself.
Clear. Yeah. Great.
And the last thing before we move forward, what's interesting with a messaging app is that they can as well exchange with other applications. So here we'll come back to it after, but I created a channel which is connected with my Trello application. And anytime there is a new project or I get some notification inside Telegram. And as well, I can, from Telegram, create new tasks. So for example, here I did a new task, which I call testing card, and then I can assign it to a new team member. So you have ways to create bridges between the messaging application and other applications used in your organization. Another example, very different here, it's notifications about like energy management. It's something else, and as an operator, I can acknowledge that I saw basically a notification. So you you can connect your messaging application with external solution for project management, but for other things as well. And we'll see other such integration later on. So this was a quick overview to really make clear the fact that you can do a lot more than just chatting through this messaging application. You can do marketing, you can do active automated sales, and you can as well do more operational management by integrating with other solutions in your infrastructure. So this was for messaging applications. Now let's go to maybe a bit more the core of the presentation by looking at collaboration systems. So collaboration systems, we are talking as solutions such as Slack, Skype, Zoho, Google Hangouts. We'll dig into them after. So these are solutions which are usually used for internal team coordination, discussion on projects and strategy, conduct online credit committee or other key operational meetings. These are tools which allow to structure and store internal communication and exchange information and non-sensitive documents. So to make it very clear and short, this place is usually the communication hub for your organization. So this is a place where you want your team members to meet, to communicate on strategic topics or project topics, to make sure that if there is an exchange, a productive exchange happening, it has to happen on this platform. The main, I would say, opportunity you have with such solution is getting rid of internal emails. And I think that's something which is a major burden for many organizations, is that you spend a lot of time reading your internal email. So with this solution, one of the key objectives is to get rid of this internal email. This allows as well to ease the handover of responsibilities, because you can, the communication being in one place, you can really transfer responsibility from one person to another and not lose any piece of information. And you can as well evaluate the overall activities of a project or strategic discussions through statistics. That's for opportunities. In terms of risk, there is always a risk of duplicate of communication flow. So if you move for a collaboration like this, you should make sure that everything is happening there. Make sure you don't keep part in Slack and part still happening in email. Otherwise, it will create confusion. You need to go fully for it. Otherwise, it will not be that efficient. A risk you have as well is a risk of overflow of information or disturbance. If you don't configure your system properly, you may have information getting a bit messy and get less value than you could have by getting things better organized. So a few recommendations before we switch to more practical things. It's very important to get one person in charge of system configuration, tracking, and optimizing. As I said, is that how well it is configured and structured will define whether the project will be successful or not. So you need to have one person really focus on that and in charge of making it work. You need to think well the initial configuration and stick with it a little time for people to get used to it before iterating and potentially adjusting. So it may not be immediate, and you need to really be ready to push to make sure that people will migrate to such solution. It will be an official internal communication channel. What does it mean? It means that if you have, let's say, a channel inside this tool, which is for a specific project, and a decision is taken within the chat group, you don't need to send another internal email to confirm and to say, yes, we decided. No, if the decision is taken in the chat group, it's an official decision. You don't need to double it with other communication. And so be ready that to move for such things, you will have to push, and you should be ready maybe to put some kind of penalties to really get rid of internal emails. Some practice I've seen which worked quite well is you give a fee anytime somebody is sending an internal email. Like the email should become a tool for external communication. Once you have this collaboration system in place, all internal communication has to happen there. In terms of options, I will not go in details there. So Slack is really one of the most known because it has very good integrations. You should not be scared of maybe combining two systems if you see that some systems do better things. So something which you see often is you have Slack but because the calling is not optimized for Slack and getting external people for calling is sometimes difficult, Skype can be a good complement for calls, for example. The Microsoft option and Google options are quite good, especially if you are already working a lot with Microsoft technology or Google solutions. And the last comment, which Eva started mentioning, that you should not underestimate Skype as well configuration options. Most people use Skype only as a chat tool or a calling tool, but you can do a lot of things inside Skype already. In terms of categorization of your groups, there is as well a pro option of Skype, which has interesting functions. So there are things which can be done there.
Actually, can we say that Skype is a sort of less sophisticated version of Slack, or can be used as a less sophisticated version of Slack, or what's the best of Skype?
The best of Skype is really calls. I would say calls, and I mean external calls. Even if right now there are as well new players like Zoom, for example, who are doing as well the calling well. The main strength of Skype was chat, calls, the fact that pretty much everybody is on Skype, or at least was on Skype. It's evolving a little bit now. But the strength of Skype, I would say, was mainly this, to be there first, to give good chat, good call function. And so they attracted a lot of people. I would say right now it's evolving a little bit because quite some people see the limit of Skype. There are some new calling systems who are a bit more reliable and powerful. And on the chatting side and the collaboration side, like Slack is significantly more powerful. And there also solutions are quite more powerful as well. After, if you're already on Skype and all your team is on Skype, it's still worth checking what Skype can do more than what you're using now. And maybe there are some new functions which you can use and already address a lot of your pain points within Skype. Sorry. So
mostly like really grouping the communication, structuring the communication into different topics and teams in a way.
Yes, I will show in Slack what Slack can do, and it will illustrate what some of the things I'm going to show in Slack right now. It cannot be done in a way as clean and organized in Skype. So this is a kind of good transition. I'm going just to give you a small overview of Slack. So how does Slack work? So first you have some functions which are, I would say, classic chat functions. So that's what appears here in what is called direct messages. So you have some people and you are just exchanging information here as normal chat. What it has some kind of extra functions which can be interesting. For example, when you are exchanges like this, you can, from any message, start a thread. So a thread, basically, it's a separate flow of communication, which will happen basically separately, not to, let's say, spoil the main flow of communication. So you can have one central chat and then some small side chats to address secondary issues. For example, if I don't know, if you're discussing about one project and you are speaking about, okay, what about the deadline? You can start a specific thread. I will start it here. So to share message. Okay, I reply in a thread, and I will start discussing the deadline here. That way, you don't spoil the main flow. You will just have one small thing like this, and when you will keep on communicating, you will see how many messages are under this thread, but it will not spoil the main flow. So you have this type of function. What's interesting as well in the chat of Slack is that you can track separately all the files which have been exchanged with one specific person. You can as well pin message. So if you have some messages which are considered more important, you can pin them, and then they appear separately. So for example, if you have a key decision taken, you can just mark it, you pin it, and it will stay saved on the side as one important piece of communication. So this gives kind of flexibility in the way the chats are happening. So this is classic, let's say, chat. One thing which makes the specificity of Slack is that you have other dimensions of how to address the messages. So you can, here at the top, you can have the chats organized by threads. So you can see all the threads which have happened in terms of communication. You can see all your draft messages. You can see all the time you were mentioned in a message. You can see all the saved items. You can as well look at all the unread. So if you have received several messages or you're coming back from holidays, you can go to all unreads and you will have all the messages you did not read. So you just need to go through and you should be updated on everything. You can as well look at all the files which were exchanged through the application. You can as well look at the channels. You can just search the channels. You can, so that you can see all the applications which are integrated with the solution. So you have different dimensions to access data. And then the next function, which is really central inside Slack, are channels. So you can create basically some static channels which will stay and where you will be able to address specific problematic topics based on a categorization. So for example, I created here a small structure which could give an idea of what you could have for an MFI, where you could have some channels for different back office topic, some other for front office, some for the management. You could have some channels which are public, like that's what you see when you have this small hashtag here, and some others which are private. So when it's private, only selected people can access. If it's public, anybody can see what's happening there. So if it's information you want to be accessible to all, you create a public information. If you don't want, you make it closed. You can
of course, by saying public, we mean public in the terms of the staff or all staff of the MFI or all people invited to certain Slack channel, but it does not mean that it's public in the sense of outside our organization.
Sure. It's public within the members of the working team. So then you can. These channels, you can add them, remove them. You can create the structure of your channel the way you want. When you have a project is finished, you can archive a channel, for example. So here I do this, and I can archive this channel once, let's say, the board is passed and I just don't see it anymore. So this can be a dynamic structure of how to organize exchanges between team members. And the last thing, which is one of the main strengths of Slack, are integrations. So you can integrate your Slack applications with many external solutions. For example, here I have an integration with Google Calendar, where I can see my plan for today. I can as well exchange messages. So I receive notifications when things are started. I can create new events right from Slack. Same thing for Google Drive. When somebody wants to access one of my files, I receive notification here right away, and I can give access right away from Slack. For chat call, same thing. So here I integrated Zoom, so I can create some Zoom call right from Slack. If I want to add an application, it's really simple. I mean, if there is a standard integration existing, so for example, if I want to integrate with Skype, I would add like this. It will take me to some places where I need to just validate that I agree to integrate my Skype with my Slack. And when I get back to Skype, disable, remove, save integration, I should be able to access Skype here. If it's that, I'll just, yeah.
But the primary point here is that if an organization does not use like sophisticated systems like Microsoft or other types of really sophisticated and comprehensive systems, actually there are solutions available that allow for achieving this kind of multi-channel communication, multi-sophistication, like by integrating already available tools, very often free of charge or at small fee. So the point is that you don't need to spend big budgets on developing big systems, but step by step you can really digitalize and make it more efficient your internal communication, collaboration, sharing of information, documents, and so on. So that's the main point here.
Yeah, to complete on this integration topic, once you have created an integration, so here we have with Trello, for example, you can invite an application within a group member. So for example, here, I think it's project general. So the Trello application is part of this group. So anytime there is an update on a project within Trello, I get a notification here. So I know when a new card is being added or when a card has moved from one status to another. So you can have notifications from applications coming right away within some channels. So I have it here for Trello. I have here for lead nurturing. I have it for Airtable, which I'm going to show after. So you can have applications sharing notification within the Exchange of team. So for example, lead nurturing, we are going to use Airtable for that. I'll show you this after. The notification arrived right away inside the channel. Then in terms of to conclude on Slack, so you can have different work groups. So if you work with several companies, you can have several work groups here. So here I have my demo. Here there is another work group. So this you can work on different companies within the same system. And you have as well interesting tools in terms of analytics. So you can, as a manager, you can actually check how many messages were exchanged on the different channels to see how active is the communication on different topics. So if you have different projects and you see there is no messages exchanged here, is either means that people don't work on the projects, or they meet physically, or they use another channel to communicate, which is not good. So that's a good way to track as well the activity happening on the different topics of discussion. So this was a quick view of Slack. So yes, the main idea of Slack is really to be the hub where your communication is happening, and it can really help improve the overall efficiency and dynamic of your internal discussions. Now the next tool, so self-built mini CRM. So that's something which will aim basically at help track and monitor the work of front office team, analyze front office activity and push continuous improvement, and as well gather valuable data for marketing and processing purpose. So before I go further, and to make sure it's clear for everybody, I will switch actually right away to the demo part, because I think it will make it more useful. So the system I'm going to show is Airtable. It's a system which was created a bit more than 5 years ago, but becoming very popular recently. And the main idea behind this solution is that there should be more people able to develop their software themselves. So the main idea behind this is to propose a solution where you can build your own small software without any line of code. And this based on a table structure. So you are creating tables, you are connecting tables with each other, you are sharing some links to some forms and so on, and only based on that, you are creating a small applications to manage your activity. So in this specific case, I created a small demo of what could be a lead management system. So there is a table for a loan officer, there is table for the leads faced currently managed by the team members, and a table for actions. So anytime a loan officer is performing an action on a lead, there is a new record. How it's working. So I'm going to show a quick example. Let's say I want to add on my website a form where the client is going to record a new loan application. So I would add a table. I will call it web application, for example. I would create right away the fields which I want to have. So I will make it fast. I will say full name. You need, as an attachment, you need an ID, document, picture. maybe a loan purpose. And say, okay, it can be investment, okay, stock or emergency. And okay, just to be fast, I would say I would put amount, one thing for amount here. And I will add an extra field for loan officer assigned. Okay, and for this one, I will use link to another record, and I will link it to loan officer. So basically, it's a field which will be linked to the loan officer table. Okay, so I have this table. Now the question is how it's going to be recorded. One last thing here, I have this first column, which is a reference column, which is used to do the connection. So in this specific case, I will do a small concatenation here. So I will use formula, and I will just concatenate here full name. I'll do something like this, and I'll put the amount just up. Okay, and now how we are going to record a new record. So you can record right away in the table like this, but it's not really the purpose. And when you do this, you see my name is getting updated, and then you assign a loan officer. He goes pick up right away in your loan officer table, the loan officer available. So that's one way. The other way is actually to share this view with your colleague. So, but to share it, you want to share it in a form. So you have right now a grid view. You would add a form where you will have the same information in this type of shape. So here, I will give a title, new loan application. Fill these fields to create a new form, a new application. Okay. And this form, I can share it actually with, I can share it first as a link with my loan officers, for example. So here I have this link, I just copy it. And anytime on any browser, on any device, I can just record it and start right away recording leads here. So I'll just choose my information, loan purpose, which loan officer I want to assign. I submit it, and I will get the record automatically added inside the table. So that's one way of doing it. If you want to embed it right away on your website, you have as well this option. You click embed this form, and right away you get the code which you need to put on your website to get this application. So yeah.
So actually, really, this tool is again, that's not a maybe it's not a tailor-made big system, but this allows you to build your own CRM that does not require development skills. And at the same time, actually, it can be used by your field staff while working with clients in the field from any device. But at the same time, you can also integrate it with your web page or any other channel where you want to collect information for information from potential clients to as leads, right? So that's especially in this digital marketing a great point, because you can integrate it with the website, with your Facebook channel or any other channel, right?
Yes, exactly. So the main central idea of Airtable is to allow anybody to create a small application based on tables, based on connection between tables, based on views. So here I just showed the grid view, the loan application view, but for any record, you can create other type of views. So for example, I created this Kanban view where you can just move the leads from one status to another. You can have some grouping of leads. So there are several ways of organizing the information to make it more usable.
Just a question, because we don't have much more time, but how easy it is to report also from this Airtable? I would assume that the reporting, creating reports is also easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of report, it's a question of one click. So you have your list, you do what is share view, create a form view. It's you must have an export function. Yes, and the export, it's I need to check where it is, but there is share view, default share view. Yeah, I need to here. Okay, download CSV. So you just go here, you click download CSV, and you have your data in the proper format. So the export of data, it's a question of one click basically. So that's after, you don't necessarily need to do this export, because just I'll show quickly after. What's interesting here is that you can as well integrate with other solutions. So here you create what they call automations to generate some update. For example, here I put that anytime a lead record is updated, I get a Slack message going to my front office lead nurturing. So if I do it very practically, I take my Kanban of leads. If I say that this lead is changing status like this, and this one is changing like this, then I can switch to my Slack, and I would say that I'm receiving notifications about the update on the lead. So if I have one specific channel to track the leads, I would see the progress of leads through the channels here. So that's the type of integrations you can do. Here again, you have okay, when you create a new automation, I'll go for this one maybe. So there are already pre-available integration. So in this specific case, it's for Google Sheet. I can select a Google Sheet account and then create an action on another solution. So you have this easy menu to create a solution. So there are some de facto available integrations. If you want something a bit more specific, you may need to develop a little bit or use another solution to the integration. But you have these bridges to automate the notifications. One last thing in Airtable is that you have as well extra function allowing to add some extra value. So for example, here, what can I use? You can display some charts, for example. So if I want, okay, here I would need an upgrade to do that, but you can add some extra kind of data to display who has disbursed the most, who has performed the most actions. So these things are available here as well inside Airtable. Yeah, so that's a general view of Airtable. Are there some questions about this solution? Just to give an idea, it's a system which is already used by more than 100,000 companies in the world, mainly some small, middle-sized business who don't have very big development teams, and so use it to manage their flow of process, their stock. It can really be used in any type of purpose. In terms of managing the front office team and tracking the leads, I think it's quite convenient from the MFI perspective, but it may have as well some use on other aspects of your activity. For example, HR management, you can totally do a tracking of staff within Airtable. You will have different structure of tables. You will have team members, maybe type of responsibilities, but you can build your small HR management system within Airtable as well.
There is also the recommendation coming from Milan, who recommends, who uses this system Brexit24. So there is a link if you are interested to learn more. And answering Biliana question, actually, is it? Yeah, exactly. Because we know that you can export, but can you import data?
I did not use this function yet, but I'm pretty sure it's possible. Let me edit view, duplicate view. Yeah, I mean it's possible actually. I don't know exactly where it is, but you can if you already have a structured table, yeah, you can import the data. It's I did not use it myself, but it's yes, yes, you can import the data. You can import, you can export, you can then you have what I'm using right now is a free version. When you start paying a little bit, you can have some extra function, extra integrations. So I'll just switch back to the presentation quickly. So what's okay? So first, the overall benefits of this is that you can yes get live monitoring of front office team, seamless lead handover, generate data for marketing, more dynamically rank your loan officers. So these are all if you want to use it for front office monitoring. On the risk side, it's more, you may expect maybe some resistance from loan officers because it will be intrusive in a way that you would ask loan officers to report any new lead they are getting. So you would have the full access to information, and it's so some loan officers may feel they lose a bit of power because of this, but I think it's part of the process. That's just if you use it for loan officers. But once again, it's a tool which can be very handy to handle other parts of your activity, like HR management, for example. Like if sometimes it's difficult to find a good, affordable, simple HR management because practice tend to be very specific based on the country. So building a small tool with Airtable can be a really good option. In terms of recommendations, so yeah, choose a cloud version. I think it's important to start. You don't need to build something very sophisticated, but start with a small minimum viable product. Start using it and then iterate. What's important is to make it mandatory for loan officer. Like it's they should understand that if there is no lead reported in the system, we consider nothing has happened. So it should really become a mandatory process for the team. And to ease appropriation, I think what's important is to make it useful. So I showed you some lists. You can create some dashboards, some views, so that the loan officers, on one side, they need to report, but they see they get interesting value back, basically. They get some value out of the system right away so that they are more eager to use it properly. So these technologies are relatively new in a sense that Airtable, it has a bit more than 5 years, but it's only over the last 2-3 years that it becomes very popular. The competitor, so there is Tab. Tab is developed by Google, and but it's still in beta version. So it's something they released very recently because they saw that Airtable was becoming very popular, and so they released their own option. And Smartsheet is an alternative, maybe a bit more sophisticated. So that's kind of the conclusion. And Airtable is quite trending. It has quite a rich ecosystem already with a lot of people developing add-ons, and it's becoming kind of a standard tool for building system based on tables. Are there some questions about Airtable before we move forward?
Nothing new, but if any new, feel free to ask questions in the chat while we are moving on with next point.
Okay, so so that's for CRM. And the last thing I wanted to focus on is project management. So project management, it's to structure and ensure the efficiency of internal projects. In terms of opportunities, so that's a way to structure and stimulate the continuous improvement. The risk is that we see a lot of companies who start using systems like Trello or ClickUp and eventually drop it at some point because people don't use it specifically, or maybe they don't have enough projects, and eventually it gets dropped. So what's really important is that such tool will be useful if you already have some kind of well-structured project unit or force. If you have some people really following up on projects in a very systematic way. So that's a very good tool for that. If you don't have this yet, there is a risk that you start it, you don't fully enforce it, and eventually it's being dropped. So I think these tools are really the tools for project management. So make sure you structure properly your project task force before putting some type of tool like this in place. The solutions so available is okay. There are several. There are really several. I just put 3 here. So Trello is really world known system. ClickUp is more recent. It's a good alternative and is developing quite fast. Asana is something a bit more sophisticated. So the few recommendation on this is, again, these are some tools you can start using from simple configuration. You can start with the free version and upgrade to the payable version only when you need it. So you should count an investment of from $5 to $10 per month for the commercial version. And so this commercial version, you would not need it for everybody. You would need it only for people actively involved in projects. So project team management, maybe some people of the management of the back office, but you would not need the front office team to have any account.
Tim, can you give us examples for what type of projects you would use Trello in an MFI, and for which what type of projects you would use Asana?
It's Trello. You could use it for any project, something internal. Let's say you want to move forward using Airtable for your HR management. You could use Trello for managing the project. So you would. It would be simple kind of Kanban view of different tasks to be performed, and this would be fully adapted. Asana, it offers, I think, more options in terms of Gantt planning and this type of thing. So when you have something maybe a bit more technical and sophisticated, like maybe a CBS migration or this type of things where you have several parameters which need to fit well together, maybe Asana may be a bit more adapted. But I really think for like 90% of the internal projects within MFIs, Trello or ClickUp are far enough. I mean, it's I'll show how it is. It's very simple, but it addresses really a lot of the needs. So I would always recommend starting from something simpler, potentially later on upgrade to something more sophisticated, but start from the simplest tool. And Trello or ClickUp are very good for this. So just a quick view about Trello solution. I will not I would not spend too much time on this because I suppose most of you are already familiar with this type of tool. So the main type of view you get in project management like Trello are this type of Kanban view. So you are having different boards with different part of different projects or different departments. You can structure it the way you want. So for example, here I created one MFI apps project. You are created a workflow with different stages. So here I have queued task, ongoing task, to check task, and complete task. And then within each of them, you are having some task items like this, so what they call card inside Trello. So you are adding these cards, you are moving the cards from one status to another based on whether they are getting completed or not, or you can bring them back. And what's interesting here is that so you have one part of the activity can happen here, and you can as well integrate what's happening within Trello with other solutions. So what you can see here is that I already have here a Slack integration. So I just have one thing happening, is that I have board notification to Slack channels when there is changes within this board. So I have this channel project innovation. And so inside Slack, anytime I'm doing a change in the project, I have this notification appearing here, for example. The same thing can be done within Telegram as well. But what I have within Telegram here, I can show is that I can as well actually create new cards within from Trello as well, or I can as well act on cards. So for example, here I have a task check Telegram app as an option. So if I go, just let me just get back, I have check Telegram app as an option here. I can move it. So if I want to move the status, I want to move it to completed, I'm doing like this, and it will have moved to completed here. So you can it's a place where the project, let's say, progress are happening, but you can as well control some actions from other applications. So if you're working with Telegram, you can have these apps to play on the task here. You can have the notification arrive within Slack right away. Within Slack, you can as well act on the cards. I will not dig into it now, but you have some functions allowing you from Slack to make the task move from one status to another. So here, I just got the notification for the task which move within Telegram. So this is a place where you manage the task progress basically on different projects.
Mm-hmm. So again, all those applications really give opportunities for integration with other apps, with all types of different resources, digital resources. So I guess the biggest point is really how to make staff using it efficiently, so that so you really need to have, as you said in the beginning, you really need to have one person assigned that oversees the process of integration of any of those tools, the process of applying the tool by all required staff members.
Yeah, I think some of the key, I mean, we'll come to it after. Yes, you need to assign some people. You need to choose as well the right people who are going to test, who are going to pilot, let's say, the solutions, find the right system champions, people who will really be eager to use it and show and the value it can bring to other team members. Mm-hmm. Then it's a mix of flexibility and rigidity at the same time. Like you need to spend sufficient time to make a first configuration which is as good as possible, so that it right away starts creating value for the users, so that they are interested in using it and you don't have problems of people rejecting, let's say, the new tools. But at the same time, you should be as well ready to perform the adjustments required to optimize the way it works. So without creating too much confusion, because if you change all the time some important things, it may confuse the users. So you need to spend enough time to make a first round relatively good enough to onboard people so that they see the value, and then you can start doing adjustments once, let's say, the appropriation of the solution is secured and people see the value, people use it, and it already delivers value for your company.
We have around a few more minutes only, so
I'll just quickly finish the presentation and then we can switch to question. So the last part is just about other systems which don't enter in this core, which was really about how to organize communication, project management, and with this solution, Airtable, Slack, and Trello. Now just a few other tools which could be useful. So first, to schedule and conduct efficient calls. So you have a system called Doodle, which allows to plan meetings where you need to plan a meeting with several very busy people. So that's a very convenient solution. I'll just screen through fast just to do it. So when you are a lot of meeting to plan, Google Calendar usually is the best option. Something I would really recommend for the busy people is to share your whole calendar actually with your colleagues, so that they can see when you are busy, when you are not, and they can schedule the meetings accordingly. In terms of calls, so there are several call solutions. Just the tip is try to be comfortable with all of them, because there is always something going wrong. You plan to do the call with one tool and then some people cannot connect, whatever. So try to be flexible and be ready to use any of the tool available based on what people want and what people can access. There are as well some, in terms of taking notes and managing the follow-up of calls. So there are different solutions here. I just quote two. There is Evernote, which is a well-known, long existing solution. There is something new called Notion, which is doing as well a little bit of CRM, and it can be an interesting tool for managing minutes, notes, maybe sometimes policies can be interesting to manage within this solution. Just for documents, I will not say a lot about this because I'm not really an expert. I would say overall that there are two types of systems. You have systems you can use for fast edition and non-risky operational file storage, so Google Drive, Dropbox, MS OneDrive. So for this one, make sure you keep them structured, you install the offline version, and you avoid files duplicates. So what you see here on my screen is very bad. I mean, you don't need to have several copies of the same files when you are using this type of tools. For more secured document storage, so the data coming from clients, if you want to digitize fully what you do and don't keep anything on paper, you would need maybe a document tracking more sophisticated than Google Drive or Dropbox. So here you would need to dig into the security constraints, the cost aspects to see what's the best options. Here are a few names, but it would require a separate kind of analysis.
Right. But I think that's really a good division between the files sharing options of kind of more secure and less secure. So that's important to have in mind while we are thinking about storing the documents.
And yeah, just a few extra tools I wanted to share with you because they are very handy to me. So I hope they can be handy for other people too. So it's very good when you work a lot offline to have a fast screenshot system. So Lightshot it's a system. It's free. You just install it, and with your print screen button on your screen, you can basically right away make a print screen and start commenting it. So when you have to, for example, discuss on some interface, it can be really good. You click, you make your screenshot, and then right away you can highlight things, mark it with your with different comments, say what is good, what is not good. And then you have these options here to share it in any way you want. You can save it, you can copy it right away in a document, you can print, and you can, what I use often is you can generate a small sharing link. So you just do like this, you copy, you share the link, and your colleagues can right away see the image. And it allows to save a lot of time. You redo screenshots in a few seconds instead of a minute or two. There is this tool called Loom, which allows to do exactly the same thing, but with videos. So it's I'll not show it here because it takes a bit more time, but when you want to do some fast brief with your colleagues with a video, it's a very good tool. You have your small face appearing, and then you can show on the screen, draw, and everything. And then you have a platform where you are sharing all your videos. So when you want to make something a bit more interactive than just screenshots, it can be really good. Okay, TeamViewer. So TeamViewer is still a well-known option for remote control sharing. A small comment on that is that there are as well many calling systems like Zoom or others who offer options of remote control. So in some cases, TeamViewer may become actually irrelevant if you can do the same thing within call. And TeamViewer, it's purely dedicated for that, so it's maybe more reliable, but there are other options as well to do the screen sharing and remote control. Zapier, so this just to connect with what I presented before, this is a solution to do integration. So if you start using these systems like Slack, like Airtable, some integrations will be automated and done easily. Some others may require such an extra system. So Zapier is a system specialized in doing integration. So it picks one entry system, one exit system, and it generates an application. For example, here, anytime I receive an email, I get a new Trello card created. So, and this is enabled. Here, if I have an email, it creates a note inside Evernote. So you can generate all your what they call Zap. It's kind of automated integration between systems. And what's interesting is that you don't need coding knowledge either to develop these small integrations.
Okay, so that's really an app that integrates other apps sort of like automatically without my knowledge of coding and without hiring a developer. So that the apps that already exist, they can be, if they are not automatically integrated, they can be integrated through this one.
Yes, that's the main idea of Zapier is this.
Okay.
Then it's one of them, but there are several applications helping you stay focused. So I think if you're the type of person who can get disturbed by Facebook, by whatever, you have such applications which can block some applications. So basically you have like 5 minutes of Facebook allowed for the whole day, and after it just blocks it. And for some people it can be handy. And the last advice, which is not very sophisticated at all, is about mailing. And it's something very, very simple, but which is not always done, is just proper email filtering. I think most of people in management position in MFIs receive a lot of emails, and very few have good filtering structure. So that's really something to start by to gain immediate efficiency. Just have proper filters of emails. The simplest is you filter by recipients, so that you see who is sending what, or you can filter by topics, but create the proper filtering so that you right away see which emails are worth checking and which one are not. I think it's something which is not always done. So very fast conclusion remarks before getting to questions. So first, appoint somebody to be in charge of apps. I mean, it will not happen by itself. You will need to push. You will need somebody to really look at it carefully. Consider that integrations are a must. I mean, in today's systems, in today's technologies, they must talk to each other. If they cannot talk to each other, it means it's not adapted modern technology. Consider that apps will help develop a digital culture in your company. I mean, if you consider that your team may not be very digital savvy, these apps can help because they are simple, they are easy to use, they have been optimized with thousands, if not millions of users. So they are very user-friendly, which is not the case of most of the core banking or microfinance solutions. So this can be a good way for your teams to become more comfortable with technology as well, to have such applications. And consider that such application can be first steps for more important system implementation. So Airtable is a good example. If you don't have loan origination system, you can totally implement Airtable, start using Airtable. What will be good is that it will allow you to learn what you need. And if one day you decide to implement a full loan origination system, you will already know what you need to have, basically. So you will understand better your expectation. Same thing for HR system. If you don't have HR system at all, you want to create a small tracking, create it in Airtable. It will do maybe 90% of what you need. And when you will really reach the limitation of Airtable, you can migrate to a full maybe HR solution, but you will already know what you need, and you will have time to kind of optimize your process, your way of using, and it will save you a lot of time of effort. So in many cases, you can look at these apps as a first step towards digitization. It may not be the last step. You may go for a more sophisticated system later on, but it will put you on track. It will put you on track. It will put your team in a line to the usage of such tools, and you will migrate to something once you are very, very clear in terms of what you need and what cannot be done right now with a solution. So that's it. Just a few words about my profile. So I've been in microfinance for around 15 years, and I'm supporting microfinance organization who want to implement this type of solutions like Airtable, Slack, Trello, or as well who need support to implement loan origination software or customer relationship system. So yeah, so this is it. Thank you. I hope it was useful, and we'll be glad to get your questions.